Hello, welcome to Frequency Bone Summer Music Connection 13, the science of music as a living thing. It was interesting. Here I am practicing, and I've been going through some different, trying to do this and trying to get that, and trying to play a little bit more than I have in the past year. And I started to realize something very interesting. For the past several days, I've been playing with 4 different mouthpieces. Put it on, take this one, put this one, put this one, put this one, that one, and trying to see what feels the most natural or what's needed. And it was getting very clear. Oh, this is doing this mouthpiece is doing this, and there were pretty big differences in their size, except I had kind of a graduated thing. I had a Greg Black mouthpiece that was actually a Bach that was modified. Okay? So it's basically the weight of a Bach 5G, and it's a little thicker. Greg Black, not much, but in terms of its shape, it's a little more cupped. And I had a Greg Black 5GS, and I had a Greg Black 4G 5G, and I have a Greg Black 4G, which is my biggest mouthpiece that I play. And for a while I was playing it quite a bit. So instead of thinking, I got to just always play this one mouthpiece, I said, I don't have to do any of that. I said when I retired from the Boston Symphony, I was going to play whatever horn, whatever mouthpiece I wanted. And it would change every now and then, okay? And then I just didn't play much in the past year and a half. I mean, I did half hour here, half hour there, 45 minutes there. And then when I started to play a little bit more again, I realized the different tendencies that start to happen when you're on one mouthpiece for an extended period of time or another. So I started to use the mouthpieces as ways of getting the reed, the embouchure, going. So one might offer this on a day that's too much like this. One might offer this on a day that your lips are too much like that, right? And was starting to find the balance playing with the different mouthpieces and boiled it down to 2 mouthpieces so far, at least for now. Because I have the space to experiment, okay? Now, even when I was Boston Symphony, it's not like I wasn't experimenting, okay? But now it's even freer. I don't have to worry about the concert in an evening or anything like that, and I haven't for quite a while. But all of a sudden I discovered all sorts of different things were coming up a few nights ago. And it was about creating space. People flutter tongue something in their mouthpiece and they think, if you can flutter tongue. Brrr. The guttural one doesn't do as much, and there's reasons for that. But the flutter tongue, does a lot of different things. And I said, well, why can't I just imagine what it does and bring it to the mouthpiece? And so I realized even more fully what flutter tonguing actually does. It actually creates more space in a more concentrated, focused way. The concentrated, focused way is because the tongue's creating actually what appears to be a smaller opening in the mouth because the tongue is going through all the time, but it's creating an oscillation, this back and forth at a very fast speed, okay? And in order to do that, your air has to move extremely steady. The air pressure can't let up, or your flutter tongue could let up a bit, okay? Unless you really focus on your diaphragm support so you can flutter tongue softly. but still there's an extra pinpoint going on. The tongue funneling it into a certain location, also doing something with the shape of the aperture. Okay, at the same time, there's that focused air. At the same time, the discovery was that the flutter tongue actually takes some strain, or the muscular dependent embouchure can loosen up a bit in the face of a stronger airstream and the tongue placement as it's flutter tonguing. That tongue placement and the drrr lets the embouchure slightly relax because it's vibrating more. And that airspeed and the tongue placement is making up for the embouchure grip that you'd normally have to have. But this led me into creating space. And I was talking with over the years, several students. I said, why don't you try to play something softer when you're articulating? And a lot of times for certain people that would work better. Other people not so much, but a lot of people it did. And it's because their embouchure isn't being blown apart too much. And it's not being thrusted against and creating too much space in the aperture, so things can be held in. And therefore, there's more space to articulate clearly. So what happens with me when I was experimenting with this, I was saying, yeah, my tonguing sometimes feels really cleaner on the smaller one, but sometimes not. And it's because the space of the smaller mouthpiece is being filled with more lip and more tongue pressure in order to have more expansion with the interface of the mouthpiece. The bigger mouthpiece offers less compression because there's more space. Now, this is a fascinating topic, and it led me, because music for me is a living thing, and science is a living thing, to see that resistance, pressures, and interface are all related and exist at any given point in time. That those three things, resistance, pressure, and space, resistance, pressure, and what was I talking about? And interface, are actually the components in a certain way of how we fill space. Fascinating, isn't it? So, if I want to go, no, that wasn't very good, but let's just take it, okay? And I'm still kind of getting my face back to do it, maybe almost as good as I used to, but it's not there yet. The bigger mouthpiece kind of felt okay. When I went to the smaller one, you could feel there was starting to be more clarity with that. But a couple of days ago, that wasn't the case. And this was really backing up on me because of the extra movement that I was doing to create that fast slur. The resistance of the mouthpiece was backing up. And the air pressure didn't have enough room. Okay. And then I figured, you know what? Interfacing with this smaller space, I back off the air and keep it moving as if I were flutter tonguing, and actually move my tongue a little bit forward like I was flutter tonguing. So it created the focus, but because I wasn't using the same air speed, the air speed. So I was still using air pressure, but the speed creates another kind of intensity, right? I backed that off and was playing softer, and I had more space because the speed wasn't thrusting so much forward in a smaller unit of space, creating less room and more resistance. These are laws of nature. This isn't laws of a mouthpiece manufactory. Like a hatchery? These aren't the laws. These are physics. This is physics. And physics, in its pure form, are other expressions, deep expressions of a subtle level of the laws of nature. And in essence, that's science. Now, there's a lot of talk of science these days, and what's true science and what's not true science. And oy vey, what a pity that we actually don't have truth central. The human, as a collective consciousness and civilization, hasn't come to that yet. And that's a truth. Otherwise, there wouldn't be what's going on right now in all this conflict in that way. So, again, that's another way of the space not allowing for a truth central. Too many conflicts of interest, no matter where it's coming from. So, anything can lead you to aspects of truth. There's not a day in our lives where we're not entering a space. Right? This is beyond playing. Entering a space, leaving a space. Yes, please fill my glass of water all the way to the top. A full cup. When people talk about this person sees life, half empty, the other one sees it half full. And we're talking about space. You are always filling a space, leaving a space, resonating in a space. Someone says, you know what, I've had enough of this conversation. I need some time, space, to have things process and have a fresh start so I can actually think better. I need more room. That's space. People say time. That's space. And space and time are quite related. Have you ever had any time without being in a space? I love this because it connects me to the laws that always exist at any moment. You wouldn't exist without them. Think of all the different space inside of our body between organs, and then it's filled, isn't it? Intercostal fluid, blood, nerves, muscles, sinew. All this kind of thing. They take up different aspects of space. So it's incredible when you think about that the human's mostly water. Is this going to deepen your art? Well, if your connections are deeper to life, why can't your art express that? And that's what music as a living thing is about. Because if you're only thinking about playing correctly, you're only creating perhaps a vehicle that's supposed to go someplace. Space. Travel. You can't travel without space. And that's a huge topic. Because at one level of life, space is huge. At another level of life, Everything is right there. So, curious, isn't it? Creating space. Hope you have a good space to practice into. It's nice when it resonates a little bit, but if not, make sure you're resonating up here and here.